Senator Furtz, our thoughts, of course, and our prayers are with you and your state at this moment. What are your thoughts on the overwhelming magnitude of this disaster, and what can you tell the people of your state?
Well, Eric, it's good to be with you. The state of Texas is hurting right now. My hometown of Houston, we've got flooding throughout much of the city. We've got about 2,000 high water rescues that have been ongoing. We've been seeing resources pouring in to the region, both from the state of Texas and at the federal level. But this is a 500-year flood, and Harvey is predicted to stay here and keep dumping a significant amount of water on the region. That's going to put even greater pressure. The message I would say to folks in and around Houston and in affected areas is listen to your local officials, monitor the news, but stay safe. And don't go out on the roads if you don't have to. The roads are very dangerous, and every time we have an incident like this, the most frequent cause of loss of life is people that go out on the roads in a car and they think they can make it across water, and they can't. And you and your family's life could be put in jeopardy very quickly. So stay in your home, stay safe, stay high if you can, if water is rising. But don't risk the roads unless it's absolutely an emergency.
The mayor did not order an evacuation. 2.5 million people. That would have been a mess, potentially, while other coastal areas were evacuated. Do you think that authorities have been and were sufficiently prepared for the magnitude of this disaster?
Well, the magnitude is significant, and there'll be time when all is said and done to review if different steps should have been taken. I can tell you that I have been visiting with the mayor, with the county judges, with local officials throughout, not just the Houston area, but throughout South Texas that was hit by the initial landfall of the hurricane, and have been talking extensively with both. I just got off the phone with the governor a few minutes ago, and also with the president and vice president.
And what did you tell them? What did you tell the president? What did you tell the governor?
Well, what I'm hearing from local officials in and around Houston is that we need yet additional assets to do high water rescues. So the governor told me the state has mobilized about 60 boats to Houston, about 20 helicopters. They've sent about 500 DPS troopers and about 3,000 National Guard. So those are very significant state assets. When I hung up with FEMA about a half hour ago, I was pressing the request from the mayor and county judges here for yet more flat-bottom boats, high water trucks, and helicopters, just because the magnitude of the number of people needing rescues is really significant. And the federal government we are leaning hard, and we're getting enthusiastic cooperation. It's just a logistical challenge moving even more high water rescue vehicles into the region.
Are you satisfied with that cooperation? There are 3,000 National Guard or so, 5,000 FEMA workers on the ground, but clearly you've got volunteer folks, people at the American spirit, helping each other, neighbor versus neighbor, or with neighbor, getting the boats out, their own boats, and rescuing and keeping track of neighbors.
Well, that's right, and I will say that is always an incredible thing to see when in facing a natural disaster. Sadly, Texas is a big enough place that we have more than our fair share of natural disasters, and when they hit, I've visited with a number of communities in the wake of a disaster, whether it's tornadoes or flooding or fire, and inevitably the community comes together. Texans come together to help each other. One of the things the governor just told me is that we've got resources coming in from 10 different states, and he's signing an agreement right now with the federal government to create a dual status command to avoid the lack of coordination that can happen in other instances, and have the federal resources and state resources working hand in hand. And then there's always the Red Cross, which does a phenomenal job. And for those who are not in Texas who want to help out, I would certainly encourage you. The Red Cross, their website gives you abilities to volunteer and participate and help out, and it's incredible how we see Texans helping other Texans.
And of course, Senator Cruz, the nation is on the side there with you in Texas. You mentioned those 10 states. We're talking about Nebraska, Tennessee, Utah, California, Missouri, Arizona, Ohio, and New York. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about some reports that we're getting there in Houston that Harris County's public hospital, Ben Taub, had been evacuated around noon due to flooding in the basement, disrupting the power there. Can you tell me more about that, sir?
Well, that is a real threat, and we're working with state and local officials to make sure that those who are hospitalized are safe and secure, and that there are backup treatment facilities available. But it is a challenge. It is a challenge that we've got flood water that is covering a significant part of the city, and often when that happens, once the flood occurs, it starts to recede, and you can go in and start cleaning up. What makes this an even greater challenge is that Harvey is expected to just sit here and keep dumping rain for the next couple of days. And so the projections we're getting is we may be less than halfway through this, that there may be at least as much more rain coming. That has the potential to really tax capacity, including, for example, the 911 call center, which is not currently imperiled by floodwater, but if there's substantial additional flooding, there could be. That was something I raised directly with the governor. And the state is working to set up backup communication centers so that we have emergency response. We have the ability to care for those who are threatened. But this is an historic level of flooding that I grew up, spent my whole life in Houston, and I've never seen anything like what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, the images are definitely difficult to watch. We feel for you there in Houston. And I know, Senator Cruz, that you are being very localized, as you should, and taking care of the community immediately around you. I do want to ask you, though, a little bit about the airports there in Houston. Of course, both of the major airports, George Bush Intercontinental, as well as Houston Hobby, have been closed. So you probably have people stranded there at the airports there in town. Do you have any idea in terms of accommodations for those folks who cannot get out of the area right away? What's being provided for them stuck at the airport?
Both airports, as you noted, are shut down. I saw just a few minutes ago a picture on social media of the runways at Hobby. At least one of the runways completely underwater. It looked like a lake. I've never seen anything like it. Just showed it to my daughters, who couldn't believe what they were looking at. And it's not clear how long the airports will remain shut down, certainly as long as we've got catastrophic flooding. For people who are displaced, and those numbers are only growing, there is shelter at the George R. Brown Convention Center downtown that the city has stood up. The Red Cross is standing up shelters. And a great many people are also just staying with friends. One of the things we see often is friends and families and neighbors taking each other in. I mean, I'll say Heidi and I have been texted by a number of friends of ours just saying, okay, our house is dry. Are you guys okay? And I think you see that a lot, just Texans trying to help each other out. And that's really manifesting in these high water rescues where you've got individuals who have flat bottom boats that are being asked, come help volunteer. One very important message, if you're in a home right now and the water is rising, a caution, do not go up into your attic without an axe or another equipment to get through the roof. One of the most dangerous circumstances you can find yourself in is to be in the attic with water rising and trapped and no way out. So if you're faced with that, stay if you can indoors, or the roof is safer than the attic if you don't have an axe or a way to break through the roof.
Yeah, and Senator Cruz, you mentioned, of course, the spirit of Texas is definitely on full display there. I want to talk to you a little bit about, I know you're dealing with what's at hand now, but of course you have to try to work in advance of this as well. Any plans from your part, from your office, in terms of the days and weeks to come to help out the folks there in Houston and southeast Texas?
Well, sure. I mean, obviously our immediate focus right now is on the preservation of life, and we are still in an active disaster situation. And so I've spent much of the day in communication with local officials, with state officials and federal officials, trying to really make sure that the resources are deployed, that the different arms of our government are communicating together. Priority number one is saving lives, getting people out of life-threatening situations. Once that happens, we will move to the next step, which is rebuilding. And the property damage from this will be very, very significant. A number of people have lost their homes, have lost their cars, have lost their belongings. And that's going to be a long process of rebuilding. And Texans will come together and work to do that. But there are many families, many communities in crisis right now. And so, I'm so thankful for people all across the country, the prayers that Texans are receiving right now, and we are being lifted up by those prayers and the support and the help and volunteers from all across the country.
Well, Senator, the United States and our fellow Americans are rallying on your state's behalf. We are with you. We are thinking about you. This country will give generously as we do. The NYPD is on its way to Houston also, and we thank you for your time. In your house, you're okay?
Our house is fine. We have not had flooding at our home. Many others have. I just saw a local elected official here in Houston who's a friend of mine who tweeted out that his parents' house was flooded out entirely. And that it's just some parts of the city are getting flooding, others are not. But we've got more to come. And so obviously we're watching it all across Houston and all across the Gulf Coast as there are other regions. Victoria, Corpus have been hit very hard, and there may be more coming there as well.
More to come, perhaps 4 feet of rain, something that we've never seen before, says the government. Texas Senator Cruz, thank you for joining us this afternoon here on the Fox News Channel. God bless you, and God bless the people of the Lone Star State.